Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're stepping back, way back, to look at the birth of Bitcoin.
Yeah, that really critical moment.
Exactly. That really intense period between the white paper drop, October 31st, 2008, and the actual software launch, January 3rd, 2009.
Just a couple of months, but wow, so much happened.
It's wild seeing it go from this, like, theoretical idea to a working network. Incredible speed.
Absolutely. And it all kicked off with Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper, just 9 pages, but it laid out this whole new kind of digital money
Right. Solving that double spending problem without needing banks or, any middleman.
and introducing the blockchain, secured by proof of work, revolutionary stuff. So yeah, our plan today is to really unpack those months, get to know the key people involved right at the start.
And what a grooge. You've got Satoshi, still a total mystery, right?
Still is, yeah.
And then Hal Finney, super important early on.
Right.
Wei Dai, whose ideas were like precursors, and that whole cryptography mailing list crowd.
The cypherpunks.
Okay, so let's dive in. Satoshi Nakamoto, where do we begin?
Well, Satoshi's role in this specific window was just foundational. It starts with that Halloween 2008 paper, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system.
And posting it to that cypherpunk mailing list, metsdow.com.
Exactly. The perfect place, really. A group obsessed with privacy, decentralization. They'd get it, or at least debate it intensely.
And the paper wasn't just fluff, was it? It was a proper blueprint.
Oh, totally. Detailed. It laid out the public ledger, the blockchain, how it's immutable, how proof of work secures it, miners solving puzzles to validate things.
Preventing cheating, basically.
Right. And it's amazing how much of the core DNA was right there from the beginning. It really set the stage.
Yeah, truly comprehensive. And Satoshi didn't just like drop it and run, right? He stuck around in the discussion.
Oh, yeah, definitely engaged on the mailing list. You had people like James A. Donald jump in pretty quickly.
What were his concerns? Scalability.
Yeah, scalability was a big one. Like, could this thing ever handle, Visa-level traffic? Big questions right out of the gate.
And Satoshi responded.
He did. He explained this idea of simplified payment verification, SPV.
Ah, so you wouldn't need the whole blockchain history on your phone kind of thing.
Exactly. Makes
Yeah.
it more practical. It showed he was thinking about real-world use, not just theory. Then you had Ray Dillinger chiming in.
What was his angle?
Energy cost,
Yeah.
the proof of work thing, it sounds energy intensive. Dillinger flagged that early.
Wow, so concerns about environmental impact and practicality were there from day one.
Pretty much. And again, Satoshi engaged. He argued that the mining incentives would be market-driven. People wouldn't mind if it wasn't profitable, basically.
Fascinating. These core debates we still have.
Hmm.
They started right then and there.
It really is. And while all this public debate was happening, Satoshi was also, well, apparently working like crazy behind the scenes. Mostly alone, it seems.
On the actual code.
Yeah, coding up the first version, Bitcoin point one, in C++ Match. Taking those white paper ideas and turning them into working software.
That's a huge undertaking for one person.
Intense. By late 2008, that foundational code was apparently getting close. The core infrastructure being built by this phantom. Makes you wonder.
Absolutely. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Hal Finney, another huge name, right? Respected cryptographer, already working on similar ideas.
Yeah, Hal Finney was crucial. Very well known in the cypherpunk world, had developed RPW reusable proof of work. So when Satoshi's paper landed, Finney got it.
He saw the potential straight away.
Seemed like it. He was one of the first to respond really positively on the list, offer technical insights. Coming from him, that carried weight.
Gave the project some instant credibility within that community.
For sure. And it wasn't just public posts. We know they emailed privately, too, during those months.
Ah, interesting. So likely discussing the code, implementation details.
Almost certainly. You can imagine them hashing out the nitty-gritty, maybe Finney reviewing code, spotting issues, getting it ready for launch.
So Finney wasn't just an enthusiast. He was likely an early collaborator, in a sense.
It seems very likely. Having someone like Finney, trusted and technically sharp, ready to participate when the network launched, that was massive for getting it off the ground. Gave it some initial legs.
Okay, and then there's Wei Dai. His work, B-Money, came even earlier, right? Back in '98.
Yeah, B-Money is a really important precursor, and Satoshi knew it.
Satoshi acknowledged the influence.
Explicitly. Apparently, Satoshi reached out to Dai before releasing the white paper. Said B-Money was an influence, particularly the idea of a distributed ledger maintained by solving computational puzzles.
So Dai sort of laid some of the philosophical groundwork.
Conceptually, yes.
Yeah.
Big time.
And how did Dai react when he saw the Bitcoin white paper?
Positively. He responded on the mailing list, basically said, yeah, this is kind of like B-money, but crucially, Bitcoin figured out how to actually make it work.
Wow. That's a strong endorsement.
Huge. Coming from Dai, the creator of B-money, saying Bitcoin had nailed the practical implementation, that would have definitely boosted confidence among the cypherpunks, signaled this was maybe the real deal.
Not just another theoretical paper that goes nowhere.
Exactly. It had potential.
So we keep mentioning this cryptography mailing list. It sounds like it was more than just a place to announce things. It was the crucible, really.
Oh, absolutely. It was the hub for these kinds of deep cypherpunk discussions. So naturally, it's where Satoshi went first. And yeah, beyond Donald and Dillinger, you had others like Dustin Tremmell asking tough questions.
About what? Security, long-term viability.
Both.
Yeah.
Security models, incentives, how it would hold up over time. Look, these were sharp people. They weren't going to just accept it blindly. There was healthy skepticism.
As you'd expect.
Right. But that critical feedback was invaluable. It forced Satoshi to refine the arguments, clarify the design. It was like a pre-launch stress test.
A real-time peer review by experts.
Basically, yeah. They understood the tech, the potential pitfalls of decentralized currency. Their questions weren't casual. They were deep dives.
And that back and forth must have really strengthened Bitcoin's foundation before it even existed as code running somewhere.
Definitely. Satoshi had to really articulate the why behind design choices, address weaknesses. That whole process made the final product much more robust, I think.
Okay, so we've got the key players, the initial feedback loop. Let's walk through the timeline of events in those months. First up, October 31st, 2008, white paper release. Remind us of the core ideas again.
Okay, so decentralized system, proof-of-work mining for security and coin creation, the public blockchain ledger, solving double spending. And it cleverly mashed up ideas from things like Atom Back's Hashcash.
Right, the anti-spam proof-of-work thing.
Yeah, and maybe Nick Sciabo's BitGold concepts, but put together in this totally new way. The initial reaction on the list wasn't like universal fireworks, though.
More of a slow burn.
Yeah, it sparked debate among the experts, but maybe the sheer scale of the idea took time to sink in, even for them.
Then November, December 2008, that's the refinement period you mentioned, the back and forth with Donald Dillinger.
Right. And I think what's key there is Satoshi engaging, not ignoring criticism, defending the design. And those private emails with Dai and Finney likely involved sharing code drafts, digging into specific mechanics, essential debugging and polishing before going live.
All leading to the software itself. Bitcoin version 0.1 finished late 2008. What did that first version actually do?
It was the core functionality. It had the blockchain structure, the mining algorithm using proof of work, and the peer-to-peer networking, so nodes could talk to each other, share transactions, build a chain.
And it was open source from the start.
Absolutely. Very much in the cypherpunk spirit. Code was out there for people to look at, build on.
Yeah.
And yeah, initially, Satoshi was running the first node, bootstrapping the whole thing.
Incredible. One person lighting the fuse.
Pretty much. Which brings us to January 3rd, 2009, the Genesis block, the official start, right?
Yeah, block 0. Why is it so iconic?
Well, it's the first block, the foundation of everything that came after, the 50 Bitcoin reward in it.
Yeah.
Famously, it's unspendable because of how the code was written initially.
Of course.
Seems like it. But the most famous part is the text embedded in the block's data.
Ah, the Times headline.
Exactly. The Times 03 Jan 2009 Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks.
Wow. So a timestamp proving it couldn't have been mined before that date.
Right. Irrefutable proof of time. But also, clearly, a political statement. A comment on the financial crisis, the failure of centralized banking. It sets a tone.
Definitely sets a tone. And soon after that, the software was released publicly.
Yep. And Hal Finney was right there, one of the very first to download it and fire up a node, joining Satoshi on the network.
And then just days later, January 12th, 2009, the first transaction.
The big one. Satoshi sending 10 BTC to Hal Finney.
Proof of concept. It actually worked.
Exactly. This wasn't just theory anymore. Value could be sent peer-to-peer, digitally, no bank involved. It was real. Finney even tweeted about running the software.
Documenting history in real time. Amazing.
It really was the moment Bitcoin blinked into existence as a working system. Digital cash in action.
So looking back at that whole whirlwind, say October 08 to mid-January 09, what's the big takeaway, the broader significance?
Well, connecting the dots, you see Satoshi's vision crystallizing, likely driven by distrust of the traditional financial system, especially after the '08 crash.
The timing wasn't accidental.
Probably not. And that cypherpunk mailing list, absolutely crucial. It provided the perfect, highly knowledgeable, critical first audience.
Finney's early buy-in gave it legs.
Essential. And Wade's concepts gave it intellectual heritage. And you have the Genesis block message that's pure ideology.
And the first transaction is the proof in the pudding.
It's the validation. So by early January 2009, Bitcoin wasn't just a paper anymore. It was a live network. Small, fragile maybe, but functioning, with this huge potential for community growth. The sheer focus and speed of innovation in those few months. It's just remarkable.
It really is. So, wrapping things up, we've traced this incredibly rapid pivotal phase from Satoshi's white paper through the crucial feedback from the cypherpunks, the vital roles of Finney and Dai's ideas, culminating in the Genesis block and that first transaction.
Yeah, moment theory became practice.
Exactly. And it leaves us with a thought maybe for everyone listening. When you consider all those early challenges, the mystery, the collaboration, the sheer audacity of it, what part of Bitcoin's original design strikes you as the most, I don't know, remarkable or maybe the most surprising, especially knowing what it's become today?
That's a great question. Lots to chew on there.
Definitely something to mull over. And if this has piqued your interest, seriously, go read the original white paper. It's online, surprisingly readable. Or maybe look into the history of the cypherpunk movement itself. It adds so much context.
Good suggestions. Understanding the roots is key.
Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us into Bitcoin's genesis.